Hey everyone, welcome back. In our last video, we covered the essential step to obtain your client ID, client secret, and refresh token. I'm going to be putting the link to that video in the description below. In this video, we'll be diving into integrating with Google Drive using those credentials that we generated in the last video. We'll start by setting up a brand new Laravel project. And for me, I am using a Laravel installer, which I already have installed. So for you, you go about creating a new Laravel project any way you used to normally. So for me to start, I'm going to go open my terminal and I'm going to write Laravel new. I'm going to call the project Laravel Drive. For this project, we are not going to be doing anything with front end, so we don't need any front end packages like React, Vue, or Livewire. So I'm going to select none. Give it a few minutes for it to install the packages. And for the database, normally we are not interacting with any database, but there is not an option for none, so I'm going to select the SQLite for now, just to keep it simple. We are not doing anything with Node or any npm packages, so I'm not going to install any npm packages or run npm build. And after that is set up, the next thing I then need to do is to change my directory to my new Laravel project. So I'll go to cd to the drive and I'm going to open my code editor here. And this is my fresh Laravel project. The next thing I want to do is to make sure that the fresh Laravel project that I clone is working as expected. So I go to my browser just to check that out. So my browser is open and then I create a new tab and then I'm using hard, so I'm going to be just write drive.test. That's because I'm using hard. So I get the default Laravel landing page, which means everything was set up correctly for me. And then the next thing I then want to do is to go to my route file, my web file, and then in the web complete, I want to remove everything that has to do with Laravel. And then also I want to remove the tailwind because we are not going to be using that for now. So I'm saving that, and then the next thing I want to do is to use just the normal CSS, which is to add a padding of 50 pixels around my body, and then create a basic form. So I'm going to create a form. The action is going to be a Laravel route, which is going to be name upload. We are going to be creating this route in a few minutes. So the method is going to be a post, and the enc type is going to be multi-part form data. I'm using this multi-part form data because we are going to be uploading files. So whenever we are uploading file, we use this. So I'll close that, and then in between the form, I want to create two input feed. The first one being file upload, so input feed type of file, and then I will give it a name. I'm going to call the name document. Then close that since it's a self-closing input file. So I need a submit form, a way to submit this form. So I'm going to create a second input feed, and it's going to be type of submit button. The value is going to be upload, which is what we want to show on the bottom value. So once that is set, I then save. The next thing I want to do is to create this route, name upload. So I go to my route file and then create a route. It's a post route, and then for the parts I want to call it /upload. Just to keep things simple, I'm going to be doing everything in this route file. I'm not going to be using controller. So and the statement there, and part of what I need for this page is a request. So I'm going to inject my request and save the inject the class into a variable. So I have the basic setup for the connection. The next thing I then want to do is to install my package. For me to install my package, I have to head on to GitHub. I'm going to be linking the URL to the package in this video description. So the package is moxbug/file system Google Drive X. So I'm going to be linking the this particular GitHub to the video description, so it's easier for you to easily find. So I'm using the Laravel 12, which means I'm going to be using this version of the package. If you are using Laravel 8 or below, you can install with this, but for this I'm using the one for Laravel 9 and above. So I'm going to go into my text editor, go into my terminal, and then paste that in to install the package. Just give it a few minutes for the package to install, and after the package is installed, we still need to do like a basic configuration. And now the package is done installing. The next thing I then want to do is for me to scroll down to the section that says use with Laravel, and then copy this, which is an env data. So I'm going to come under here just to extend my Google Drive details, and I'll paste that in there. Then I'm going to be replacing the client ID, client secret, and refresh token to my own client ID and client secret and client refresh token. If you don't have this, the first video in this playlist should cover how to get this. For us that have gone through the video, I will also be linking the video in the comments below if you need to get that. For us to have that, I'm going to be replacing that with my own credentials. So I'm going to come in and get my own credentials and override it with this. Yes, so my credentials is there now. I have the env set up. The next thing I then need to do is to go back to the package and get the config. We are going to add a new disk which is for Google and is inside config file system. So I'm going to go into my app config file system, and after the S3 disk I'm going to paste the Google disk, and it's getting the client ID from the env which we've set. It's getting the client secret and the refresh token from env which we already set. So I'm going to save that, and then one more thing, which is to add this bit of code into my app service provider. So I'm going to copy that and go into my app providers, app service providers, and then in the build I'm going to paste that rather, and then remove the slash, import the class, and I'm importing the facade. And with this, everything should be ready to go. So we've already been able to configure the package to work with our Laravel app. So after configuring, the easiest way to upload the file is to call the storage facade, import it, and then set the disk to Google, which is the new one we added, and then call the method put, and it's that simple. So this method takes two parameters. The first one is the path that you want to save the file, which for now, for this video, to keep this simple, I'm going to be saving it to the root directory of my drive on Google Drive. So slash, and then what is the content that I want to save there. So I'm going to be saving the file that is uploaded. So I'm going to call my request, get the file with Laravel request file, and then what is the name of the input that has the file, which is document. So I'm going to put that in here and save that, and it's this simple to upload the file. So I'm going to go to the browser and then go to my project, refresh. Okay, so our route is saying our route is not defined, but our route is defined, but we are making reference to the route by the name, and so we need to give it a name of upload and save, and that should solve our problem. Yep, that fixed our problem. The next thing we then need to do is for me to quickly open my drive and then go to my drive, and for now I only have one folder in my drive, which is the backup folder. So I'm going to be uploading files for this video and then check it in my drive just to confirm. So I'll go to my browser and then go to my web app, browse, choose a file, and for test purposes I'm going to select this first file and then upload. Okay, so we have another problem, which is our page expire. So we then need to, for every request that is, for every submission of form that is coming in Laravel, you have to add a security hidden input feed, which lets the PHP application validate that that request is coming from your server and is not coming from an external server. So I'm going to add that to my welcome bleed, and it's at CSRF. Save that, and then we should not have this problem of form expiry. If you try this again, upload, and yep, that uploaded successfully. So if you go to my drive now and give a few seconds, yeah, and this is the new file. If I open the file, this is the file that I uploaded. That's one way of uploading file to Google Drive. But in most cases whereby I want to upload file to Google Drive, I also want to have control on the name of the file, which is where this second method that I'm going to be showing you comes handy. So if you go to web back, instead of having this put, I'm going to be calling another method, which is put file as, and instead of having two parameters, which is the path and the file, this also accepts the third parameter, which is the name of the file. So I'm going to be giving it as a variable called file name, and just to show you that we can give it any name, I'm going to create that variable above here, and I'm going to set it to current time in milliseconds, and then concatenate hyphen Laravel, just to make sure, just to show that this is a Laravel file, then dot, which is followed by the extension of the file. For me to easily get the extension of the file, I will do variable request hyphen, I'm going to get the file and then the key, which is document, and then get client original extension function. And so this basically will give me the current time in milliseconds, which might be anything, and then hyphen Laravel dot whatever the image is. If it's a PNG, put PNG there. If it's a JPEG, you put JPEG there. So that's basically the file that the name that I'm trying to generate for a file. So once I have this, I can then save this and then go back to my project and then try and upload a new file. For this, I'm going to be uploading this M. So I'm going to do this, and then it has a PNG file. So I click on upload, and that's uploading, and that has uploaded successfully. So if I go to my drive, I should have this, which is this is the current time in milliseconds hyphen Laravel, and the extension of the file, original file, is PNG, which is this. If I open this, I should see the M. So that's two ways of uploading to Google Drive with the package. So the second part of this video is going to be, after uploading a file to Google Drive, how do you then retrieve the file or get the preview of the file or download the file or stuff like check if the file exists or stuff like that. So I'm going to be walking us through how to retrieve the file first. So I'm going to go back to this route and I'm going to create a new route. I'm going to call it a get route, and it's going to have part of get file. Like I said, just to keep things simple, I'll create a function here that handles the request, terminate the statement, and for me to get a file, which I'm going to be getting one of the ones that we just uploaded, I'm going to do storage, disk, Google, and my guess is going to be get and then the part of the file, which in this case, let me get the part, will be this. Save that. So the expected behavior would be that this would return the file. Then for example, this is an image, return an image that you can then display, but that's not the case. If you call the get method from this package, most of the time you get back the content of the file that you are trying to get, and in an image sense, it does not really help us, which means we cannot display our image, we cannot preview our document. But this is great for a TXT file, for you to be able to get the content of the file and stuff like that. So, but in most cases, we might need to like see the preview of what the file is and how it looks on Google. For example, like this preview when we double click on our own application also, so we'll be able to know how it looks like on Google Drive. So the easiest way to do that would be to change this to a URL, right, which get the URL to that particular file on Google Drive. So I'm going to DD so we can see what that looks like. So if I go back here, load that part, let me change the directory to get file. So we get back the URL to that particular file, but the most important thing for us there is we try to get the ID, because if we hit this endpoint with this, we won't be able to view the file, won't be able to embed it into our website or anything like that. So, but for us to be able to embed it into our website, we need another endpoint that Google provide for us to preview files. So, but for us to do that, we need the ID. So we are going to find a way to extract the ID out of this string. So for us to do that, I'm going to save this URL into a variable. So I'm going to say variable URL equals to this, so I then have that. So I want to get all the query params in that. So for me to get all the query params in that URL, I'll call a PHP built-in function, which is pass underscore URL. It takes two arguments. The first one is the URL that you are trying to pass and which part of the URL you are trying to get, which is with a constant. So I'm going to be using PHP underscore URL underscore query. So that would extract my query section. So let me quickly DD that so we can see what that looks like. That should just be this part alone, which is right. So once we have that, the next thing is that's not useful for us. We need to find a way to extract just the ID and the content of the ID, which lead us to another PHP inbuilt function, which is pass underscore string. So that takes two parameters also. it takes the query, which is the string we are trying to pass, and where should the result be saved. So I'm going to be saving the result to params. Save that, and this should save an array of the two elements in this case. So if I did the params, I should have the two array, which is id and export. So if I first, so this is the two that I have, which is perfect for me, because then I can now say document id is equals to an array which is params this, and then get the id key. Yeah, so I'll be able to get the id. Then the last bit we want to do is to create a preview variable, and then we use that to build the URL to the Google service for us to be able to preview. So I'm going to say https semicolon drive.google.com/file/d/ using document id/preview, and this would give us the preview of the file, but we can't just use this. So I'm going to return a view, and then I'm going to call that view preview, save, and then create that view. I duplicate this and create that, change it to preview. So that's that. Okay, so back here I want to pass back my preview as part of the keys, the data that is passed to that view. So that's that. Then I want to go to preview here. I want to delete everything that we have. We don't need a form here. We can leave the padding, and then I will create an iframe. I'll create an iframe. The source is going to be preview, and then I would add a style 200 pixels, which is width 200 pixels, and then height 200 pixels. Close that, and then that should be all we need. We set this to the preview URL, we pass the URL, and we are able to build the URL from this, save, and then go to our browser and then refresh this page. And yes, this is the preview that we get from Google, and we can easily click on this, and that opens in a new tab with that preview also. So that's how to preview with the package. So like I said, there are some other actions that you can perform with the package also, like download. So let's try and see how to download with package route. I'm going to just make it a get, and it's going to be download as part. It's going to be function. So for you to download, you have to return, and then storage, disk, Google, and then download. No surprises here, and the path of the file that you want to download. So we are going to copy this and then paste it in there. So that would download the file. So I'm going to go to my browser and then change my directory, my site to download, and that should have downloaded the file. Yeah, so that's the file downloaded. So that's how easy it is to download file. So to do other ones, I'm going to create another endpoint quickly and call it get, and I'm going to make the path as order function. It takes another function in, and I can easily do stuff like checking if your file exists before. So if I delete out there, that should not exist because there is no file called Laravel at the end. So I'm going to go here, change my path to others, and it's first. If I had the L back, which there is a file, that should get us back the file that it does exist. So you can do other checks like getting the visibility and other stuff. You can check the package just to know more about that. And that's basically all I want to show you in this video around creating of files, manipulating of files, downloading of files, and previewing the files. So if you find this video informative, please subscribe, and so you get other videos like this. And I'm going to be dropping another video on this playlist that talks about how to create directories, how to manage directories, and some other details around this package on how to manage directory. So if you enjoyed this, thank you, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.